Everybody, my name is Dominique, and today we're going to learn how to cast on, another alternative method, and how to do a knit and a purl stitch. So what you need are a pair of straight needles, and the straight needle is different than a double pointed needle in the sense that when you buy a pair of knitting needles that are straight, you usually get two. And then when you're buying a double pointed needle, then with those you usually get them in about a set of 5, and you usually use them 3 or 4, and you're knitting all of them one at a time. And common uses would be sleeves, anything circular, socks, sleeves, pant legs, anything that requires you to work in a circle. You would use your double pointed needles, or if you're making an I-cord, which is in one of my earlier videos. But for today, I'm going to use size 10 millimeter, which according to one of my charts here, 10 millimeter is equivalent to a size 15 US. I usually don't use these. This was for a project, a bigger project. And this is going to be my yarn. This is not super thick yarn, as you can see, so when I'm knitting, I'm going to try and knit it fairly loose. That way you can see what it is that I am doing. So one method I had shown you before to cast on was simply putting the yarn over the needle, making a slingshot by pulling the yarn down, and then going and doing that. Oops, let me just try that again here. So over, there we go, and continuously doing that. This method is really good for a project that you have complete control over, and you know roughly how many stitches you want to make, but it's not a big deal if you don't have the proper amount according to a pattern. So for example, a scarf or a placemat, something that's really, flexible with the amount of stitches you're using. That would be ideal. For something that requires a specific amount of stitches, then I would recommend that you do a slip knot. Leave a little bit to work with, but make your slip knot, slip it onto your left needle and tighten it. You don't actually need a tail, so we'll make it a bit shorter. Some projects, like I mentioned, may require the tail to be a specific length for sewing up pieces together, like sleeves and sweaters and whatnot. But here we go. So you're going to take your right needle, you're going to insert it up the loop behind the left needle. You're going to take the working yarn, just put aside the tail if it's in your way. You're going to take the working yarn, yarn over the right needle. It kind of makes a click if you pull it down all the way. And then, as if you're doing a knit stitch, you would bring the back needle downwards and through to the front, and instead of just removing the loop completely from your left needle, you're going to stretch it out a bit you're going to stretch it out a bit and put it back on to the left needle. So now you have 2 stitches. So say you need to make 10 stitches, so we need 8 more. Once again, you're going to insert the needle into the most top stitch. So insert it up diagonally from behind, yarn over, bring it down to the front of your right needle, stretch the stitch up a little bit just so you can have enough space, and put it on the top. So like I said, this is an excellent way of controlling exactly how many stitches you need. And most patterns are quite flexible, and they usually write out various stitches for different sizes, like a dog sweater, for example. And we'll go over how to read that in another video. I think I'll make one about how to read a pattern. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now you may see that there's a little crossover here, a little overlap. Don't stress out about it. It'll fix itself as you begin to knit. When I first learned how to do this method, I was very confused. I can admit that. And once I, kept going with my work and started knitting, I noticed it did not make a difference, and you couldn't even see it. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and we'll do one more. There, so you just learned how to cast on, and you'll notice on the edge it looks like a braid. So to do a knit stitch, take your right hand needle or your working needle, insert it beneath the loop diagonally into the back, yarn over. Sometimes you hear a little click, and your work should look like this. Whoops, sorry. Your work should look like this from that angle. Bring the back working needle downwards, and this strand here is what you had yarned over, if that helps any. And then slide the stitch off, and you can tighten it however tight you need it. Something like this where I'm using big needles and a thinner yarn, which is more for a size 4mm hook or needle, it's going to be very flimsy unless I have a super tight grip, and even still it'll look a little flimsy after. So in behind, yarn over, and bring it through the front. So I'm going to do a few rows of this, and in part 2 of knitting and purling, you're going to see what the difference is in the work, and I'll show you that. So just keep doing what you're doing, and when you're done your row, you can give it a little tug to stretch out your work a bit, and then you'll be able to see the difference as your work grows. So the knit side will give you a V kind of pattern going upwards. Can't really see it because I just started. And a purl side will give you kind of little horizontal bars. Okay, and I'll just keep going with the knit stitch, and we'll go from there. Thanks for watching.